Guys, the NBA is dead. Literally dead. Nobody is watching basketball right now. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching a Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share a Black Conservative Perspective, aka a liberal's worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. The NBA. So the first game of the NBA Finals just happened between the Lakers and the Heat. And guys, I'm not watching the NBA. I literally have not watched the NBA since they pulled that whole boycott thing back a couple weeks ago during the playoffs. I literally decided I am not watching the NBA anymore. Like I just can't support it. I can't support it. And apparently last night I was reading that only one player had actually stood for the national anthem, and I think the ref stood as well. And that one player was Miles Leonard, who's on the Miami Heat. And the reason why he stood is because his big brother was in the military. And again, people try to say, oh, kneeling for the anthem isn't disrespect to the military. Most people that stand for the national anthem when it comes to athletes are standing because they have somebody that was in the military, and it is a way to honor the military. So don't let anybody tell you anything differently. And there's a lot of pressure on these guys to kneel. So if they're not kneeling and they're standing, it's because of how much they want to show respect for this country. So don't let anybody tell you that kneeling is not disrespectful. Kneeling is definitely disrespectful. That's why you have so many people that are connected to the military that play these sports that are still standing, even though there's pressure on them not to stand because they're going to be accused of being racist. After this, the ratings report came out and the NBA is down 50%. Now, this is from The Wrap, and apparently they're down 50% compared to comparable data from last year's NBA Finals that was between the Warriors and the Raptors. And it looks like the total viewership that they had from these early numbers is 5.3 million viewers. Now, I think the final viewership numbers from last year was 13.31 million viewers. Now, I don't see how they can make up that basically 8 million difference in viewers even when the final numbers come in. So it looks like when the final numbers come in, they're going to be down over 50%, guys. That means literally half the people that watched the NBA last year are watching it right now. Now, Mark Cuban, he went in a back and forth between Clay Travis on Twitter about the ratings and basically saying, hey, it doesn't matter that the ratings are down, there's less viewership because our advertisers have the audience that they want. And that tells you what the NBA is doing. It's like I've been saying the whole time. The NBA is done with America. They don't even want the dollar anymore. They value the yuan and Chinese money more than they value American money. I'm telling you. They don't care that the ratings are down. They don't care. At least with the NFL, at the week one, they went super woke, and then after that, you can tell the NFL has been a lot less woke. Now, don't get me wrong, they still doing some woke stuff. They still have stuff in the end zone, but it's not a focus anymore. They're not focused on it anymore. And the reason why is because they know they're losing money off of it. But the NBA just don't care. They don't care. They're going to keep pushing the woke narrative no matter what because they're in line with China. They're in line with China. That's the only explanation that I can have. They're going to milk the rest of the audience that they have, the young people, the young wokeities, and the super liberals that, keep watching the NBA. And even though a lot of them are not watching the NBA anymore, they're streaming it illegally, which means the NBA is not getting anything out of that. They're not getting anything out of that because those viewership numbers aren't being counted. So again, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong off this, but when you go to the negotiating table with, advertisers and the TV networks, you can't be like, well, our ratings are down 50%, but we think that 50% comes from people illegally streaming. I'm not sure that's how it works. So that's what I'm trying to say is that the NBA have shown that they don't care and that they're going to go full woke. And I'm strongly believe that this is not good for the players. And that these players are going to get dragged down by the ultra rich players like LeBron James, who've already made his money. They're going to get dragged down by him, dragged down in the mud of wokeness. And they're going to end up making significantly less money in the future. Unless they can make up this difference with China, which looks like that's what they're betting on. Because that's the only reason I can think that they would continue to do this. Here's what I think was going on. China wants the NBA to push the woke narrative because they know that it divides America. That's why they want the NBA to push the woke narrative, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. It's almost like the NBA is essentially a pawn of China and Nike Incorporated, because they're all in bed together. So why would you alienate your American audience and your viewership if you know that you may lose money off of it, unless you was kind of getting a kickback for it? Again, this to me is just proof that China basically controls the NBA. I mean, you might as well call it the Chinese basketball league at this point. You might as well call it the National Chinese Basketball Association, or the Chinese National Basketball Association, the CNBA at this point. That's how ridiculous this is to me at this point, because otherwise it doesn't really make any sense why they continue to do this. I mean, when your viewership's falling 50%, that is a message. That is a strong message. Because literally nobody's watching the NBA. Nobody cares about the NBA at all. And I'm a Lakers fan. And I refuse to watch it. Like, I just can't. I mean, I didn't like watching regular season basketball because they don't play defense in the first place. But now, after this woke stuff, after the boycott, that was the last straw for me when it came to just anything having to do with the NBA. Because I just don't agree with the kneeling and the disrespect. And I think it's just really stupid for the players to do. It's bad for business. It's bad for the NBA. It's bad for the players. But it looks like they're going whole hog on woke and pushing China and Nike and all this other stuff. So hopefully they're making up the difference with that. I doubt it, but apparently they don't really care about America. So now some people are going to counter this and be like, well, the viewership is down for everything. You know, a lot of sports. It's not just the NBA. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, viewership is down for the NFL as well. But the UFC, they're up. Their pay-per-views are up. They're breaking records when it comes to their pay-per-view numbers. Also, they've grown their following on social media tremendously as well. The UFC is killing it right now. And I actually have watched some UFC matches here recently, and I wasn't a huge UFC fan. I actually think that the silent arenas are actually better for the UFC because you can hear the impact of the punches. It's quiet, right? It's when you get a big hit, you can hear it. You can hear the impact. Like, I think it's more exciting. I think the UFC is better when there's not an audience, actually. So I've actually become interested in the UFC, not because, you know, they're not woke, but just because I think the product has actually gotten better because there's no crowd. Now, does that mean that they should not have a crowd moving forward? No, absolutely not. I mean, that's like losing money, but having that silence there and that empty arena, I think it just adds a certain dynamic where it's like these guys are really like getting into it, you know? And even the women's matches as well have been really good. I mean, UFC women is way more entertaining than the WNBA. I mean, who knows what's going on with the WNBA? Like, does the WNBA even exist? Like, apparently they're doing like the wokest stuff, and it's like, you guys have the least viewership out of every sport. I mean, you're the least relevant, and y'all out here doing the wokest stuff. Like, you got the most to lose, really, because the only reason they're still alive because the NBA is keeping them up. So who knows how long the NBA is even going to be able to keep the WNBA alive? Some people might be like, well, you know, the UFC has politics, and Dana White supports Trump, and Kobe Covington came out, and he's a Trump supporter, and he was talking on the phone to Trump during the interview. And my rebuttal to that is this. Yes, people don't like politics in sports, but there's a difference between politics in individual sports and politics in team sports. Here's the reason. When it comes to team sports, if one person or two people or half the team kneels and becomes political, if I'm a fan that's rooting for that team and I don't like the fact that they're kneeling, what happens is that it makes it so I don't have anybody to root for. And it makes me hard to root for the team or even the individuals because they're kneeling and I don't like it. If I like a certain team, I'm not just going to go root for the other team. Like, that's not how it works. So kneeling puts me in a bad place when it comes to team sports. For individual sports, if somebody supports Black Lives Matter and somebody supports Trump, what happens is that if I don't like the dude that's supporting Black Lives Matter, or if I don't like the dude that's supporting Trump, I can just root for the other guy. There's somebody I can still root for. It's not like I'm gonna root for the other team to win. It's basically like a lose-lose, right? So when it comes to UFC, I can choose my side. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, look, Muhammad Ali was political when he was boxing, and people consider him the greatest ever. And I think that's the difference. There's more nuance when it comes to when it's okay to have politics in sports and when it's not. Because again, when it comes to individual sports, I can just choose not to root for that person, or I can just choose not to watch that person. Better yet, like I said, if I don't like that person, I want to see his ass get whooped, right? So if I support Black Lives Matter, I want to see the Trump supporter get his ass whooped. Or if I support Trump, I want to see the Black Lives Matter person get his ass whooped. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have a choice in terms of who you can root for. So I don't think it's that big of a deal that they incorporate politics. Matter of fact, it could be a boost for them, because it's like, well, if I'm Team Trump, I can support anybody else's Team Trump, right? I'm not forced to try to support a whole team or to decide whether or not I want to support a whole team or the sport in general, because I can really narrow my focus on who I want to support. And I think that's the difference. Now, ideally, to be consistent, obviously, we shouldn't have any politics in sports at all. But I can definitely see the argument for it being acceptable in individual sports. So I don't know. You guys tell me. Now, back to the NBA. When people try to talk about the decline of viewership not being a big deal, you have 50% less viewers. You have 50% less. That's 50% less eyeballs on the screen. I mean, best believe if I'm an advertiser for the NBA, I'm like, what's up with this? Right? Like this is we're not getting our money's worth out of this, because nobody's watching. So I don't even think the NBA Finals was the most watched television show that night. I think it was like second or something like that, I believe. But it just goes to show, when you get political in a team sport, what happens is that you're going to suffer. It is a bad business move. It is disrespectful. It's disrespectful to a lot of people. They're not going to want to see it. Stand up, show some appreciation for this country that allows you to make millions and millions and millions of dollars and to live a lavish lifestyle. You live better than 99% of the people in this country. All you have to do is dribble a ball up and down the court and put it in a hoop. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to be educated, because allegedly you got players like Hassan Whiteside tweeting out that if President Trump wins, he might move to another country, and that country that he might move to is Hawaii. So you ain't even got to be educated. Now, allegedly, that's what he said. He's denying that he actually tweeted that, and he's called it fake news. But you see my point. You don't even have to be educated. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to do any of that. I mean, what other country can you go and make that much money playing a child's game? They can't even go to China and make that much money. They played in the Chinese league or the European league or the Australian league. That's why they all want to play in the NBA. That's why people from around the world, stars like Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's why they're not playing in Europe. That's why they're playing in the NBA. Because that's where the money's at. That's where the opportunity's at. You don't have a better opportunity anywhere in this world than in America. And you should show some appreciation for that. Understand who your audience is. Now, their audience now is just woke people, but they have to accept that this is what's going to happen. You're going to lose viewership. And long term, these NBA players, in my opinion, are going to lose money, specifically with the U.S. audience. Now, I don't know. They might grow in China, and China might be able to make that up. Who knows? That seems to be what they're banking on. They want the yuan. When people try to tell you that it don't matter and that people want to see sports and politics and team sports, look at the NBA, man. The NBA is dying. The NBA is dying. And don't let anybody else fool you to try to think that this is not a big deal. It's a big deal. Because I would think that most people would want to watch sports and take their mind off of politics. That's what I would think. So you would think that the viewership opportunity would go up. When sports first came back, I was so excited for sports to come back. I was like, I can't wait for sports to come back. I can't wait to take my mind off politics. Even though I talk politics every day now, I wanted to watch sports. And then when sports came back, they made it super political. And it's like, well, if I'm going to watch sports and it's going to be political, I might as well just, deal with politics on a day-to-day basis. I might as well just watch CNN, Fox News, whatever. Yeah, man, NBA ratings down 50%. They going broke. We'll see. We'll see what happens. What do you think is going to happen to the NBA in the future? Make sure you let me know. Like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.